What's up, everybody? You're watching the 10After7 podcast on YouTube, episode 19, with your host, Michael Cody Stevenson, and the first ever three-time guest returns to the podcast, Kyle Slowey. What's good?
Peat, we're back. Glad to be here.
Peat. Shout out to Lil Wayne there. We got a lot to get off our chest. Let's start with the biggest news of the week, especially for us growing up in the golden age of USC football. Reggie Bush, reinstated by USC, number 5, is back in the fold. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. I think Reggie Bush is the greatest college football running back we've ever seen, especially from the age we were growing up when he was performing. I think we were all USC fans back then. I'm a UCLA fan now, but back then I loved USC. I love Reggie. I think he's a great guy, so it's cool for him to be able to be connected back to USC. I don't know about your thoughts.
Probably my top 5 favorite athlete of all time. I can think about it right now. It's probably Clayton Kershaw, Manny Ramirez, Reggie Bush, honestly. Those 3. And Reggie, number 5, the electricity he brought to USC football, 2 national championships, obviously the Heisman Trophy that he decided to give back. There was nothing more exciting than watching Reggie Bush return a punt, a kickoff, catch a pass out of the backfield, and go 80-something yards to the house.
I can watch Reggie Bush highlight tapes and be confident going down to the bars this big game. That's just the kind of vibe it was. And also a cool story is when we met, I was pretty much reenacting Reggie Bush, running around the beach, yelling his name. I just was pretty obsessed with his kind of running style.
And honestly, we haven't seen anything like a Reggie Bush since then. Can you think of one player? They've tried to hype up a couple of guys that were on the same level. Tavon Austin, I remember they started to hype up. No. LaShawn McCoy, they tried to. No. Reggie, no one touches him.
The funny thing about Tavon Austin's highlight tape is the first 90 seconds is just him dancing around the field pre-games. But
that's another one you could get hyped to going to the bars though.
Yeah, but Reggie Bush, just to be able to cut back sideline to sideline, I think we all kind of tried to imitate that in flag football, just never giving up on a play and trying to get to the end zone. So
I actually tell people I was Reggie Bush before Reggie Bush, the white Reggie Bush.
I've heard the story from Luke about you running sideline to sidelines for 5 minutes and scoring the final touchdown to win the game.
Yeah, insane. That's where I peaked athletically. But the front flips into the end zone against UCLA, I remember it. Even in the national championship against Texas when he did break loose. Yeah, I know he tried to lateral the ball backwards, but he did have his moment where he jumped, I think, 6 feet from the 6-yard line into the end zone.
So sick.
And it's brought back some bad memories too because USC... It was the time when NCAA tried to flex their muscle and make an example out of someone, and USC just so happened to be the team. Reggie, 18 years old, how is he not going to accept a free house for his parents? How? You can't.
And to punish him for 10 years for that, embarrass him, like you were saying, all the things they stripped from USC in the program, especially the Heisman, it's unfortunate.
The Heisman,
just for a simple mistake to help out his family.
And he's handled it absolutely like a professional. A lot of people were wondering, how's Reggie going to handle being reinstated? And he's taken it in stride. He wants to come back. He wants to be a part of the program. That's where he made his name. I thought he had a great NFL career, 11 years. I don't think the Saints win a Super Bowl without a couple of his returns in the postseason. I love Reggie Bush. I'm happy about it. But yes, you can't take back what the NCAA did to USC. Those 30 scholarships, I remember there was a time when Sark was there and even Lane Kiffin where they couldn't even practice in full pads because they didn't have enough scholarship players out there.
And for USC, a national champion and elite college football program of Southern California to not be able to house a practice is pretty insane to think about. But for the benefit of the Pac-12, as much as I want USC to lose games, especially to UCLA, I think we need them to become elite again. Reggie Bush could help out in the recruiting process. I don't know if all these kids they're so young nowadays, but it's hard not to be able to look at.
I was talking to Devin about it, and he said, what difference is this really going to make? I do think a lot of people, you said it, Reggie Bush's highlight video, YouTube's out there. I think a lot of these players know who Reggie Bush is. There was a cool quote from CeeDee Lamb, who just got drafted to the Cowboys, Oklahoma receiver, and he said what Reggie did is unmatched. So he's aware, and I think kids coming up will be aware when they get a call from SC and Reggie Bush is on the other line, come on down to Southern Cal, all for it.
UCLA does it with Troy Aikman. It didn't work out with this quarterback, Miller Moss, that went to USC, surprisingly. But bring these retired NFL legends, especially college football program idols like Reggie Bush and then Ed Reed down in Miami. He's got hired for an advisory role to just kind of guide these players throughout the process. Maybe if you had someone like Reggie Bush, now you're not going to have an illegal, violation like what happened to Reggie. So that could be good for USC too.
Yeah, and he's talked about he's all for doing that, and he could tell these kids, hey, listen, I was made an example out of. They wanted to shame me, and now with possibly a new rule of these players getting paid, it'll be better for USC. I'm just happy that all the highlights are out there now of Reggie Bush coming back. I actually pulled up his game log from 2005, and I just want to go down these numbers. First game of the season at Hawaii. 12 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Next game, Arkansas. 8 carries, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. Next game, Oregon, 20 carries, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 receptions, 43 yards, 1 touchdown. Next game, 17 carries, 158 yards. Next game, 14 carries, 110 yards. Next game, 15 carries, 180, 3 touchdowns. And here's the big one. We all remember the Fresno State game. This was the second to last game of the season. 23 carries, 294 yards, 2 touchdowns. Follows that up against UCLA with 24 carries, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thank you very much. No one is ever going to be as good as Reggie Bush at the running back position.
And then he goes to the NFL and doesn't fit in. But if he would have been drafted today, he'd be a blend of Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and be a fantasy football legend.
That's actually true. And how many times did we actually draft Reggie Bush in fantasy just because of our love for him?
100%. A running back that could be electric with the ball on limited carries and also catch out of the backfield is prominent today. So it's unfortunate for him.
He really is iconic. Seriously. And for us to grow up our prime years of being sports fans, unbelievable to watch that dude play.
I thought it was USC withholding and keeping him off campus.
I did too, honestly.
But I just found out it's NCAA and their 10-year requirement. So
so they did the same thing with Chris Webber. And they said,
no way.
Yeah, so Chris Webber, I think last year or the year before, was the honorary captain at an Ohio State-Michigan football game. So he was the first one, and then they said, okay, you guys can end your disassociation after 10 years, which is a fucking joke. I can go on for hours about how much of a joke the NCAA is.
10 years doesn't even make sense.
To shame these guys that are 18 years old.
It's poor. I'm glad things are changing and they're adopting new rules so players can make some money. It'll be nice.
Yeah, let's hope, for my sake, SC comes back because we know it's been brutal the last couple of years.
Oregon's taking over the Pac-12 right now in football, and I've been kind of following the name, image, and likeness, and they're putting together like spreadsheets of how much top recruits can make if you came to Oregon versus other schools, and it's all really interesting. They're saying a guy like Justin Flo can make like 600 Gs.
Someone sent me the other day, if this likeness and image rule passes, how much these players would make, but it started the year after Zion was there, so Cole Anthony, I think, was like $600,000. I'm like, can you imagine how much money Zion would have made?
Reggie would have made millions too.
You think who would have made more though? Who was a bigger? I don't even like. Reggie was big, but Zion, social media age, like we were on MySpace when Reggie was at USC.
They would have loved Matt Weiner, his quarterback, obviously Heisman. Vince Young back in that time. Yeah, but obviously Zion because of the dunks and how viral and quick he went. But I think football is, especially at the quarterback position, because you're there for usually 3 to 4 years. You have time to make some money before you go to the league.
Yeah, one can only hope the NCAA just finally comes to their senses. But I wouldn't put my money towards it. So what else do we want to talk about today, man? You said you wanted to talk some fantasy. You wanted to talk some NFL. I said we shouldn't talk about baseball, although I don't think many people know the MLB draft is today. There's only 5 rounds this year.
No, it's not, is it?
Yeah, there's only 5 rounds, and it's usually 40. I remember texting you. I saw who's supposed to go number 1, Spencer Torkelson, and it's a funny story. Tigers have the number 1 pick. He's projected to go there. I went to go watch him pre-quarantine when Arizona State played at Fullerton, and I stayed for 7 innings. He started off with a strikeout, base hit, intentional walk twice with first base open, and I said, you know what, I'm done. 15 minutes later, I'm in my Uber. Look on Twitter. Torkelson hits a 440-foot bomb out of Goodwin Field.
That was why, as I drafted him to our dynasty, so I was following him. I was like, did you see his home run? And you're like, no, I'm leaving. What?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. That was rough. But I guess that's one name to follow, and Austin Martin is the other one. That's about all I know about the MLB draft.
Exactly.
So, yeah, where do you want to start? NFL, we know that list came out a couple of days ago about if they had a redraft. Everyone's available this year, Bengals first-round pick. I thought the list was interesting. A lot of people took notice of Drew Lock getting picked 15th overall ahead of Matt Ryan, Kyler Murray, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I thought it was absurd, but you're a Denver Broncos fan. You could talk more about Drew Lock.
I think it's absurd to go above Kyler and maybe Jimmy G. I still think Jimmy G's really good, although everyone's kind of recency bias from the Super Bowl. But Drew Lock looked great. His final 5 games of the season, when he was a starter, won out. So there's a lot of hype, and they surrounded him with great wide receiver talent. Jerry Jeudy, probably the top Alabama receiver. KJ Hamler out of Penn State. So they got a lot of good things going.
So why do you think why do you think this list? Like, I think local beat writers were the ones that put this list together for their teams. So why would you pick Drew Lock at 15? Like, can you get behind the mind of that beat writer and say, why did Denver take him? Because it's Denver's 15th pick, and they obviously took Lock.
Prototypical size, great arm. He actually has some mobility, which tends to let people believe that he might be able to make some off-platform throws, kind of like Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Has some success down the line of his rookie season, great weapons, but above all, just he's a charismatic guy with a burning desire to be great. I know he's contacted Peyton Manning of what to do in the offseason because he wants to emulate what Peyton did, and it's just having that kind of drive, I think, separates him. I'm not sure this beat writer knows all this, but I wouldn't pick him above Kyler Murray, who's, I'd say a shorter Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, in this, if I'm restarting, if the NFL restarted and you had to pick a position to lead your team, I'd take a quarterback round 1 every time.
I just think it's completely biased that Denver has the 15th pick of this thing and they take Drew Lock, obviously. Top 5 picks, I don't see an issue. Patrick Mahomes goes 1 to the Bengals. Russell Wilson goes 2 to the Redskins. Lamar Jackson, 3 to the Lions. Deshaun Watson, 4 to the Giants. 5, Aaron Donald, the first defensive player taken off the board. I have no issue there. I think Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson, in my opinion, are the top 2 quarterbacks. I'm trying to see where Tom Brady was on this list.
14 to Tampa Bay. Okay, I didn't know it was beat writers from the area doing it. It makes a lot more sense that Tom Brady went to Tampa and Drew Lock went to Denver.
Yeah, see, those ones. But like Rodgers went 12, still listed ahead of Brady. He went to the Raiders. I like that. Breeze, I would take Aaron Rodgers before Breeze. Breeze is at 8 to the Cardinals.
I can't believe the Arizona guy didn't take Kyler Murray. But yeah, it's just, it looks like quarterback is the main position. One guy went O-tackle, but if you're not picking quarterback, you got to get a pass rusher. And then, yeah, Christian McCaffrey, running back, I think he's just so lethal. And he kind of carried the Panthers last year. It's not a bad pick in the first round.
Even Michael Thomas, 22 to the Bills. I thought Michael Thomas would go higher, but he's, I think, the first wide receiver taken at 22 in this redraft.
Michael Thomas, yeah, he's developing that wide receiver diva personality.
You think?
Campaign. You saw the offseason beef he had with Devontae Parker.
Yeah, but that was warranted. I mean, if Devontae Parker's coming at you and you're Michael Thomas, all-pro receiver, I think Michael Thomas is the number one receiver. That's actually a good debate, ranking the receivers, because we know the talent pool there.
Yeah, I agree. If you take people will say if you take Drew Brees away from and all the targets away from Michael Thomas, is he still elite? I think his hands are insane. He can catch just about any ball. He's a big body possession guy, so I like him.
Yeah, I mean, the only seriously, it's crazy. In this list, the only one that people really shit on it for was Drew Lock. And it's funny. I mean, yeah, you say prototypical. He does walk around with a swagger, but I listened to an interview with McManus, their kicker, was on the Pat McAfee show. And McAfee brought up Drew Lock, and he straight up said Drew Lock's immature, which I guess is normal, but for him to come out and say that was concerning for me, especially a kicker.
McAfee said that?
No, McAfee had McManus on, and the question was about Drew Lock, and McManus straight up said he's immature, but also good guy. But he definitely said the word immature.
He's young. I mean, he's like probably 20, 21, and we've seen all the highlights of him dancing on the sideline to young GZ.
Yeah, I think McManus is just an old vet.
I don't know if a lot of guys like McManus on the team.
Huh?
I don't know if a lot of guys like McManus on the team.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, coming from a kicker, kickers are usually off to the side, so I'm not sure how much of a... Yeah, I don't know. Dak Prescott, another quarterback taken ahead of Aaron Rodgers in this thing. I can't believe it. Why are people souring on Aaron Rodgers? Please tell me. Is it the offense that is being ran over there with LaFleur? Because he still had a great year. A lot of people don't like how he doesn't take chances. He still doesn't turn the football over, and that's a key if you're a quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I guess age could be a factor.
I guess you're starting your team with these guys. So,
but other than that, I mean, if you're 37, you're not. I mean, you're definitely on the tail end of the career, but you're not out of the league as a quarterback now, especially with Brady leading the charge at like 41. So, who knows? Maybe it's personality. A lot of these beat writers take offense to Aaron Rodgers because he's sometimes a little monotone.
You know what they should have done? They should have not had the beat writers do this draft. They should have had one player from each of these teams redraft. That would have been very interesting.
And Aaron Rodgers' stats would probably decline a little, but it's not like they're giving him great weapons, obviously. So you kind of have to blame it a little bit on the management side of his performance isn't just about him. It's about who's surrounding him.
God, this list is trash. Looking at it now, I don't know, man.
It's not how you draft him.
Well,
it's not how you draft in fantasy.
Definitely not. Look at the Niners. At 31 in this draft, they took George Kittle. I don't know why we did this segment. I didn't even look fully deep into this thing, but the bias is insane.
It's hard to take it serious, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you want to talk about fantasy? You know what's weird about fantasy? So with all this COVID stuff going on, the quarantine, obviously football's going to come back, and I think they actually will come back when some fans are allowed in. But for some reason, like right now, we would be gearing up for a draft, but I lost some enthusiasm for it. I don't know why. And I have a pretty good team. We're in a keeper league. I think we're on year 8. Cheer me up or something. Get me stoked.
It's the one thing I look forward to. What I'm saying is, in our league, about half the players or half of the owners are extremely prepared, and guys like me doing mock drafts 3 months in advance, reading hype articles on these players. I just love football and statistics and seeing who's going to be a diamond in the rough. So I've always loved fantasy for that, and building a good roster. And then there's guys like Trevor Neer, Sean O'Neill, who just waltz into the draft with no cheat sheet or like any knowledge of what team players are on, and somehow they walk away with a semi-decent team. And I think that that makes fantasy so much more fun when there's just like a ragtag team of owners.
And our league's cool because we do get to keep 3 players, so there's decision-making leading up to the draft. We do an auction draft, which beforehand, I mean, I was a standard fantasy player growing up, but the auction, if you haven't tried it yet, the auction is unlike any other, and I believe most people probably do auctions these days.
It's fun bidding on players, you know?
Yeah, rattling the cage of the guy sitting next to you, nothing better. So who are your keepers? Tell me that.
Kyler Murray.
And I know people, I want to say beforehand, I know people hate when other people talk about their fantasy teams, but guys, we don't have much going on in the sports world today, so bear with us.
Kyler Murray, who I think is going to have a dark horse MVP season, especially with DeAndre Hopkins getting added, bolstering the O-line, another year for the young receivers that he has around him. So I'm hyped on Kyler. I have A.J. Brown, who I got, you know, for cheap too, who had a breakout year with the Titans. And then my third spot's pretty open, but I think I'm going to go Ronald Jones.
Tampa Bay running back?
Brady's our thinking if Tom Brady comes over there and I have the running back, you know, behind Tom Brady in that offense, he's going to contribute really well. And he's a USC grad, so maybe Reggie Bush starts coming in his ear now.
I mean, Ronald's an interesting one. I know Eric, I think, tried to keep him last year in our league, which was a year too early. I know he had probably a couple good games, but I know he had the fumbleitis. I think it's a good one. I don't know how they're going to implement running backs over there. I don't know if they have a handful of them like there were in New England for Tom Brady. But I do know that Bruce Arians was the head coach over in Arizona, and he loved Chris Johnson, who kind of similar.
Exactly. And I know they brought in a running back from Purdue who's rep by Clutch Sports, which is Rich Paul's agency, Keshawn Vaughn. But it's pretty hard in an NFL offense as a rookie to just pick up all the pass block protection and contribute. I've also, one of the things that's different about me in fantasy is I get attached to these players' off-season workouts and grinds and how committed they are and if they're trying to improve. And I've seen a lot of videos of Ronald Jones.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. On his hands. See, that's when I think owners dig too deep.
And we all know that's me every year. So
it's funny. I should probably come in more prepared this year. I know I try to not focus on it because you could get so in your head with fantasy. You could beat yourself up for days, especially in an auction, how much money you have to spend, where you're going to spend it. I thought I did all right last year. I haven't won a title in this league. My keepers, Nick Chubb, got for cheap, running back, Cleveland Browns. Lamar Jackson, got him at the right time, won the MVP last year. His price is going to go up. I'm okay with that. And then my third keeper, maybe the listeners could help, comment below. It's between OBJ, who has disappointed me the last couple of years I've kept him, or Julio Jones, who had a great year last year and actually found the end zone. So he's a lot more expensive than OBJ, but I don't know.
What about Austin Eckler, running back Chargers?
You know, it's interesting because I like to get quarterback out of the way, one running back out of the way, one receiver out of the way. So you could kind of build off those top guys. I have my number one guy at receiver and number one running back, and then quarterback. I obviously have a guy that is pretty consistent.
I think you're a favorite with your keepers because they're pretty talented. It's all about how you construct your roster.
Yeah, that's the problem. I clinch up too easily. I remember last year I invited my brother over to help me out, and I usually don't bite the bullet early, but Julio Jones came on the board, and I just did it. I think it was $60-something, boom, right off the bat.
Yeah, I remember that, because I didn't keep him. Yeah, I'm over-analysis paralysis.
Which I think, you're that, but you've won in our Dynasty League, correct?
Yeah, and Snake, but John Serta is the back-to-back champ right now. And oddly enough, as soon as he signs and starts co-owning in another league with his girlfriend Natasha, he starts winning rings in ours. So we kind of think she's played a really impactful role to him getting these championships. It's not all him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence. She comes in the picture and Serta reels off 2 titles. I don't think Christian McCaffrey has much to do with that. I think it's all Natasha.
He didn't even know who Christian McCaffrey was without her.
No, we can't dog him that hard. We can't dog him that bad.
Anyways, yeah. So I'm just glad the NFL season's back and we're gonna have fantasy. But it's hard with 12 guys figuring out a draft destination. We always want to go big like Mexico, but we can never figure it out.
Yeah, last year I was at your house. I thought that was fun. I ate a ton. Your mom's brownies came out. I think I had 3 of those, 2 burgers. I would like to do a destination. We did Havasu a couple of years ago. That one was super fun. It was about 118 degrees. Make your pick, throw it on the board, jump in the lake, beer in hand. I thought that was awesome.
Air conditioning broke. Yeah, that was
yeah,
that was epic.
That's a story to tell. So the AC broke at our house, 14 dudes deep, sweating. I've never sweated more. It was a sauna. And I was only there one night. You guys got there earlier, but I only could do it for one night. Slept on a mattress outside. Night number 2, we're in the garage around 10:30 p.m. Probably 20 beers deep at that point throughout the whole day. And me, you, Beatty, and Patrick Holler up deciding, you know what? There's a Best Western right down the street. And I think still to this day, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Shower, air conditioning, just rejuvenated.
Seriously, I'm not even kidding when I say this. I don't think I've had that good of sleep since.
It felt so good. It felt like after a long beach day where you're slightly sunburned, you shower off all the sunscreen, and you're just kind of laying in bed.
Avoided the Sunday cleanup at the house. Oh.
Yeah, so good shit for that.
Yeah, so that's the fantasy talk. Baseball, man. I actually read an article today. I don't even want to keep talking about this until there's actual news. I know the owners and players union is going back and forth. Here's the thing. Rob Manfred, if it comes down to it, could just come out and say, hey, we're playing 50 games and we're going through with it. 2 sides, you just have to play. He could literally put in a 50-game season. And here's why I have so much of a problem with that. 50 games in baseball is just a spurt, dude. 162, I know some people think it's too long, but 50 is too short. Last year, through the first 50 games, let me tell you this. The Washington Nationals were 19-31. They went on to win the World Series, for those of you that don't know. 19-31, those first 50 games, was the same record as the Detroit Tigers, who now are picking number 1 in the draft after losing 114 games. Also, Nelson Cruz, 41 homers last year. First 50 games of the season, 7 home runs. I just can't get behind that, man.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. There's no legitimacy if you win a title or not. I know I had a huge discussion this past weekend when we were watching the UFC fights with Brett Campbell saying, you guys are going to be at the parade. You guys are going to be dousing each other with beers if the Dodgers win it. Listen, I probably will be, but deep down inside, I'm not going to be waving my 2020 World Series championship if that's the first one I witness, because 50 games is a fucking joke.
I agree, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's cool to see a team go on a late run and slip in the playoffs and then just make a miracle run to the World Series. Kind of like the Nationals. I think the Indians did it a couple years back. But what game limit would be
satisfying
good for you? Half a season?
So the players first said 114. I don't think it's going to happen. The last thing that was out was 76 games with a 75% prorated salary. And I'm okay with 76 games, I guess. Like, if I had to choose the least amount of games as possible for me, probably 76 games. And here's the quote I read in the article, and it makes so much sense in the world we're living in today. Being right is not as important as doing what's right. So please just come to the table and do what's right for baseball. And they were talking about possibly kicking off the season when these negotiations first started, about starting the season on the 4th of July. Can you imagine if baseball came back on the 4th of July, before the basketball playoffs start, before the NFL's even getting started? They would literally own it. And 4th of July would be monumental to start the season, man, and they've lost out on that. I don't even think it's possible. But having beers on the 4th of July with all these games happening would probably be one of the greatest moments for our world at this point.
Dodgers win, fireworks going off.
Oh, man.
That would be a moment to end COVID.
It would. 4th of July, just like after, I mean, I hate to say it, but after 9/11, when Mike Piazza hit that home run in the first game back, American flags all over the stadium. I mean, I don't think fans would be there on 4th of July, but the bars are opening this week. We could possibly go to the bars and watch this thing. It would be seriously a moment for all of us to cherish for the rest of time. And you know how many kids are going to be missing out on baseball if they can't come to an agreement? So many. And this is the prime years for kids. Think about when we were younger, growing up. We had the Sosa-McGuire race, which is going to be the 30 for 30 this weekend. It's going to be incredible. That's what made us fell in love with baseball.
You know what's fucked is like now players aren't – a guy like Mike Trout who's on a trajectory to kind of potentially break certain records. Now he has a shorter season, less games to do it. It's kind of unfortunate for something like that. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, I'm the biggest Mike Trout fan, and one can only hope one day he catches Barry Bonds with 765 home runs. And yes, this will play a factor, but just give us what we want, man. We want baseball back on TV, for God's sake. It's going to be the only sport not on television. I mean, I've said this on every podcast. We're on episode 19, and there's been no change at all.
I agree.
Yeah, you got any final thoughts for us today?
The last thing I want to talk about.
My dog did bark for 5 minutes. I'd like to apologize for that. I would have got up. I would have told him to shut up, but I just thought, you know what? Let's just let him go.
That was a cool element actually added to the pod. I think a thing we should end on is, you know, games of the past we wish we wagered on.
Yeah, we thought about this this weekend, right? When we were watching the UFC
fights.
Yeah,
we were talking about someone, or they had shown a clip of the Robert Horry game winner against the Kings where Shaq tips it out, the ball rolls to Robert Horry's feet, and he hits a three-pointer at the top of the key to end the game. And that's probably the moment of my life that I've tried to reenact, you know, in beer pong, pick up basketball, shooting paper balls in the trash can. So I wish I was old enough to be able to have a little bit of money on it and just win a little extra dough on that. So I think that's kind of like got the conversation going.
Yeah, we definitely we talked about that game. We all, because Devin was with us, and we said, yeah, like we would have bet on the Lakers, and that would have been a great game to bet on. We don't know the spread of it, but obviously I think that would have been great. And on Devin's end, it could have been a bad beat that just sent him in to depression.
He would have been repping the Kings, yeah.
That one was Derek Fisher was the one I thought of immediately, because I remember watching. That's the shot that I tried to do immediately the next day. I remember getting to school at like 7 a.m. and I wasn't even left-handed, but I just tried to throw it over my shoulder with 0.4 left on the clock. And if you're betting that game, think about that. You're like 0.4. I think some people probably would have left, because at that point, I think it wasn't possible or something.
No one they thought you'd need like at least 0.7 or something, 0.8.
Yeah.
I remember I was watching with my dad and my mom, and they hit the shot and we're down. There's 0.4.
People forget about that shot too. Tim Duncan, guarded by Shaq, falling over, hit an amazing shot right before him.
Such a great shot. And my dad got up and got in his car and drove to the Little League, I think right around my house, for a game. And I stayed to watch the rest, and he hit it. He just didn't believe that Derek Fisher won the game. So there is a story of someone leaving.
Yeah, and I wonder if he had money on it. That'd be interesting to ask him.
Oh, I doubt it.
The other one I was thinking was, obviously this was a Reggie Bush heavy podcast, was the Texas USC game. Heartbreaker. Almost cried when I didn't have money on it. Can you imagine throwing $3 bills on that and Vince Young, who we all knew was going to take the ball and run it 15 yards into the end zone?
Would have been devastating.
Oh, so bad.
That would have been devastating.
And
they just showed that Rose Bowl game over during all this the social distancing lockdown.
Yeah, I watched the entire thing. That was a low point for me, and we forget how good. I remember when Reggie gave up his Heisman, there was a little bit of discussion whether Reggie should give it up and it should go to Vince Young, which I was so against. But Vince Young in that game, man, was insane. Even watching it back, you're like, holy crap.
Well, I was just surprised because it started trending on Twitter when they were showing it. How much of like the youth and that generation hadn't seen that game or didn't know who Lendale White was, and how good that rushing attack overall was. So
and they made
really hyped on Lendale.
They made the 30 for 30 Trojan War after it, and going into that game, USC had to be at least a touchdown favorite.
I agree. 100%.
That's one. I also would have loved to bet the 2007 Super Bowl when the Patriots were going for their undefeated season, because I was the only one in my household with all of my friends there who was rooting so hard against Tom Brady, which I always do. And
who did they play?
They played the Giants, and they had that game-winning touchdown over the shoulder to Plaxico Burress, and I'm convinced I would have won money because I would have picked the Giants.
That's a great one.
And
was that the David Tyree catch too to drive down the field?
Yeah, same game. You think about the Super Bowls we've lived through. I know I made a ton of money off the Falcons one. I actually on Twitter at halftime said Bill Belichick, greatest coach of making adjustments at halftime. Final score 31-27. I tweeted that out. And I won a couple $100 for not giving up when the Patriots were down 27-3.
I would have picked that one, but I was in the basement. I think you were probably at my house, actually. That was probably the greatest thing ever.
Another one.
I have one actually.
Who were you going for during the Steelers Cardinals Super Bowl?
The Cards.
Okay. So
right, because then I think James Harrison got like a end of the first half
interception,
like 90-yard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was rooting for the Cards. I just love Larry Fitzgerald.
And he had that breakaway in the fourth quarter. I think like a 60-yard touchdown straight down the middle, and then obviously one of the passes that's iconic, doesn't get talked about enough, honestly, is Big Ben in the corner of the end zone to Santonio Holmes. Perfect throw. And perfect catch to Tapper in the back of the end zone. I rooted for the Cardinals in that one too. That one just was back and forth, incredible. And if you had the over in that one, I think you would have got it.
Do you know what year that was? 2009?
Kurt Warner. I don't know.
Yeah, it says 2009.
2009?
Yeah.
That one was good. I'm trying to think of another Super Bowl. Because that's really...
I have a baseball one.
Oh, baseball? Damn, can you think of a baseball one?
Dixon walk-off home run.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we know how many people left the stadium with that one.
That would have been insane.
Yeah, have you bet any games with a walk-off homer?
No.
That would be friggin'... Or how about if you bet the Red Sox Game 6, 1986, when the ball went through Buckner's legs?
Oh my god!
Oh.
If you were the right age, you would have too. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, betting.
Good times.
Super Bowl's like the only thing I bet now. Final thoughts on Conor McGregor retiring for the third time in 4 years. I don't trust any fighter that ever retires.
Dude, he's doing it for attention. I absolutely despise that he did that.
The night of UFC 250 as well. Like, can you be a bigger dick to take away from those fighters? Who it was a great card. Garbrandt's knockout, O'Malley's knockout, and then Amanda Nunes 5-round beatdown of Felicia Spencer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just no reason to do that. He's not actually going to retire. He's going to come back in a couple months, and when he schedules a fight, I don't like that attitude. But I'm a McGregor fan. I have my McGregor.
Yeah, I kind of flip-flop on McGregor. I liked him, and then I thought he got in over his head, especially after losing a few times, one to Diaz, and then getting mauled by Khabib. I don't know who he fights next. I know the new Fight Island, Abu Dhabi. Pretty awesome that they're doing that. July 11th, UFC 251. I know our friends are sending that card saying it's stacked. I don't know much about it, but I'm so fired up that Dana White's keeping this thing going, because how fun was it on Saturday to literally hang out with a group of friends watching live sports?
It's a sport we had to bring us all together. And at the very end of the night, we're all just sharing stories from high school in a little powwow circle, which was epic. Much needed for all of us that have been kind of isolating.
Yeah, that was awesome. Had too many beers next day, hungover, ate like a horse. That's what I do, dude. I don't have much of a problem drinking, but the next day I just turn into the biggest POS, and I'm ashamed of myself of what I eat.
Just greasy Postmates 2 to 3 times a day, maybe even 4.
Yeah, seriously, 3 times. The Habit and then L&O to top it off. I can't even calculate the calories, but I'm sure everybody
sound phenomenal.
So that was a good podcast. 40 minutes strong, Slowey. 3rd time guest. Probably going to come on a 4th time. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, that was sweet. Good talking.
All right, see you soon.
Yeah.
There you have it. Another podcast with Kyle Slowey. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you don't really like to hear about fantasy. That's the only thing we have to look forward to. I'm stoked about Reggie coming back. Baseball, figure it out. UFC, thank you very much. I'm out of here. You can follow me on Twitter at 10After7 or on the Instagram at 10_after_7. Woo! Go Dodgers.